Hey guys, welcome and thank you for joining me today. So I have a repeat visitor, which is Trey. Trey is a friend, and Trey is someone who we're good friends, and I worked with Trey for over a year, right, Trey? We work at the moment.
hmm
And for anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you just tell the few people that listen to this, what do you do
yeah,
and where you at, and yeah.
yeah. So for the thousands of people watching, hello, my name's Trey. I just completed my Master's of Architecture at a place called SCI-Arc, Southern California Institute of Architecture in downtown Los Angeles. That is where I am still at, but I'll get there. So I am a world designer and a level designer, in addition to being more of a 3D artist on the creative side as well.
That's amazing. And the reason I wanted to invite you to this popular show is because you said you were recently doing a thesis, right, for your graduation project. And I was really interested. And I thought it would be so cool to share this. And on top of that, I was a part of it. So I was able to create the character for you. So can you tell us just a little more about what that is and, what does it entail? And
Yeah, absolutely. So as a school of architecture, we're tasked with making a final master's thesis. The undergraduate program does this as well at the end of their 5 years. And we're kind of tasked with creating our own big idea of the future of the practice and also of, the general design world. So what I did was very out there relative to traditional architecture things. At this school, you're kind of encouraged to do stuff like that. So what I did was I made a game. This is my first game that I have ever made. And so I asked a lot of people for help. Thank you, Alan, once again. But I made a short exploration game where you're exploring the remains of a forgotten facility. That's the gist of it. And we can, dive in and perhaps do like the full presentation after.
yeah, no, absolutely. I literally can't wait. And you chose to do this in Unreal. I know in the past when we worked at Moment together, we were using Unity and we used many other platforms, but we didn't really play in Unreal. How do you like Unreal versus Unity, just as like the initial exploration?
Yeah, so in the context of when we were working together, we used Unity as more of a WebGL based reasoning. From Unreal, I started using that as in a film context, short film, where me and two other people had made a short film, which won a draft selection award at the Rookies a few months ago. And from there, I was familiar enough in Unreal where I wanted to use that for my thesis project.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I've been saying on this channel for a while, I want to start diving into it, but I've been kind of avoiding it just because I've been doing so many other things between ZBrush and Maya and Blender and Substance Painter, I'm still, for some projects that I'm doing, I'm still in Unity a little bit as well. So, but everyone I talk to is Unreal seems to be a dominant player in the space at this point.
Yeah, to get into it can be pretty daunting,
Yeah.
but it's very easy to get comfortable with.
Amazing. All right. So do you want to just dive right into it and just tell us about your project and just start showing stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'd like to do is kind of go through the full 6 to 7 minute presentation that I did for thesis. I want everyone to keep in mind this is at an architecture school, right? So it might be a bit up in the air. It's a lot of big ideas that are a bit too complicated just for the purposes of a spectacle at the school. But at its core, what I'm making is an exploration game. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we can dive in. A rusted air capture machine spins its fans for the first time in millennia. Life emerges once again, spreading in, around, and through the machines we built to save the world. 450 meters below our current sea level, underground tunnels house evils designed to be forgotten, but now are revealed to the sky. These scenes describe a post-climate world where our creations resurface from the next ice age and are seen by individuals yet unknown to history. Very few design with geological or ecological time in mind, hence our continued use of harmful materials in their systems, ignorant of the broader ripple effect on Earth's ecosystems. These issues regarding our planetary health give us an urgency to speculate in these timescales so that we might redefine current ecological solutions from short to long term. This is the Sandia Report from 1993, where teams of anthropologists, designers, historians, architects, and others designed a system of graphics and earthworks to describe nuclear waste repositories. Understanding that the discoverers of this facility might not even be able to read, the designs range from simple faces increasing in discontent to abstract timelines for plutonium half-lives and landscapes, such as menacing earthworks, spike fields and message kiosks, and spikes bursting through a grid. A 2010 documentary titled Into Eternity interviews the people behind the Onkalo nuclear waste repository in Finland, where the approach to dissuade human intrusion was to seal the waste in steel canisters, bury it in the bedrock of the earth, and stuff 40 kilometers of tunnels with clay. This is that facility. All of this aimed at one specific circumstance.
He recognized that this could happen, that you might find and open Onkalo. He referred to that as human intrusion. We don't want this to happen because you may get hurt. But most of all, we are afraid of human intrusion because if Onkalo is opened, the waste will no longer be isolated from all living organisms, and we will have failed. In fact, we consider you the main threat to the safety of Onkalo.
My thesis does not solve this problem. Instead, it places us within that post-climate world, based on the writings of people like Alenda Chang, Luke Casper Pearson, and Alice Bucknell, and games such as Monument Valley, where architecture becomes a main character, and A Short Hike, where an evolving movement system changes our perspective of the world over time. In this world, we ourselves need to rediscover our environment. We meander around blended ecologies. We activate mechanisms of an eroded tower as blissfully ignorant explorers. And we determine the future of the tower we see before us. This operates as an exploration game, where you can walk and jump around the world, activating mechanisms and seeing where they lead you. Finding key cards will grant you access further inside the tower to open the path forward towards determining the future of the facility. The catch is that when the player does decide to fully open the facility, which is a normal course of action for a player, they will be reintroducing the long-buried nuclear waste back into the ecosystem, going directly against the original intent of the designers of the facility. So instead, the best way to play this game is as a meanderer. Taking in the sights and sounds and giving the tower the respect it deserves. Representing this project as a game gave interesting outcomes and affordances that were new to me, but still fun to explore. I am generally interested in world building, as I'm sure many of us are, but I wanted to push further than that. I had to make choices around how does the character experience the world, how do we see it as the player, and what agency do we have within that world? Main inspiration being a person and mega object experience inhabiting a model, and character movement systems and camera positions, then designing the levels based on that. Thanks.
Wow, that was really impressive. The grandness, and it's so large, and I liked all the details. You see like the birds flying away, far away. Like you really put the time in designing all of this. That's really very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah,
You know, ironically, all of this was much larger than any of the worlds that you and I are building at our job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how long did this all take?
This all took from start to finish 3 months.
Can you talk a little more technical? Like, let's start from the character. So as we mentioned before, I helped you design the character, but I did not rig it or animate it. Can you share a little more? How did you get the character walking and all of that stuff?
Yeah, so I had used a plugin for Blender. I forget the name of the exact plugin, but I can send it to you later, Alan.
That's okay. Yeah.
But I had used that to create a rig for the character, which I had edited slightly, and then used the default Unreal third-person animations.
So there's no motion capture or anything, right?
No.
Interesting. Wow. And then when you were you designing yourself all of these elements and assets, or did you download them from somewhere?
So I had downloaded the key cards and the scanners for those, but everything else was either kit bashed or made myself.
Did you make it in Blender or Maya?
Maya.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I made the things that you interact with are made in Maya, and then the larger scale tower shape is done in Blender and zBrush.
And then for texturing, did you use Substance Painter?
No, all the textures were done in Unreal.
Oh, wow. So
the variations that you see are mostly decals.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. You know, I've talked to somebody else who said Unreal is going to be great for even rigging and animation. And now if you could eventually even do texturing, I mean, at some point, Unreal will just be able to handle all of it, right? That's really interesting. Did you have any limitations as far as, you know, like the poly count or draw calls or any of that?
Thankfully, no. I made it a very purposeful decision to try and keep it as light as possible. As soon as I encountered any issues, I immediately cut back. Thankfully, because of Unreal, you can test that live. I didn't need to package it or anything. This was all done within the same Unreal file.
Wow, okay. And let's talk about the shader. The shading is really interesting. It almost looks like it's stylized and, you know, it's got those thick outlines. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I was inspired a lot by Blame, the manga. And of course, animation studios like Studio Ghibli, where, you know, they have this unique aesthetic, which is kind of childlike and playful. I wanted to keep that. And from an architecture perspective, I also wanted there to be some line work for people to look at to add certain details within the environment. So for instance, on the fungi that you see, there's a lot of extra detail in those because of the shader line work, which adds a lot of texture to the world itself.
Fascinating. Did you use any AI whatsoever for this project, just so we can kind of see if anything that is usable at this point, or is it still too early?
I would say there is a lot of usable things. I didn't use any AI except certain decals in the world. So If you remember from the video, there was faces scattered throughout the world. Those are real, but there are other decals that look similar to that, which are AI. The reasoning for that, it also was done in Midjourney. The reasoning for that was I wanted there to be this alien, almost hard to understand language to the symbols around the world, because from the player perspective, they don't know, or this particular character doesn't know what this facility is. But if I were to tell you the story of it, which is the nuclear waste repository, as the player would know what it is. So I tried to make it a bit more ambiguous with AI.
Wow, fascinating. Very cool. Now, since you went through the whole process of building this project, what lessons did you learn that maybe you would do differently, or were you pretty happy with your efficient workflow?
Good question. I would say overall, I'm happy with the workflow. I don't know if I would change anything with the knowledge that I had at the time, because I was learning, blueprints and Unreal game flows for the first time. But now, knowing this workflow, I of course would try and make improvements and try and be a little bit quicker with certain things.
Amazing.
For instance, the interactivity is very, very simple. I would want to be a bit more creative with that.
Did you need to do any type of scripting or coding for this project, or all the elements in Unreal are pretty much just plug and play?
No, most of it was made custom using blueprints in Unreal. So it was visual scripting done by me. I had the help of some specific plugins for the interaction system and the interaction systems. But the rest was custom made.
And what did you use for sound?
I had gotten the sound from Epidemic Sounds. It's a sound library online, which is a subscription service. And then I had put them in just for the purposes of the video. They're not in the game yet, but that was done in Premiere.
All right. And then once you showed this to your teacher as a presentation, tell me, how did that go?
Yeah, it went really well. So it was very interesting. Because this is an architecture school, I was expecting to defend my medium of choice. But I didn't have to. A lot of the jury was very open and immediately jumped on to the idea of it as a game. And a lot of their critique was focused around that. So certain gameplay systems that might be interesting to incorporate, or because the stakes are so high in the story, maybe there's when the game ends, maybe there's a timer, or maybe the game destroys itself, or there's some gravitas to ending it, so the player knows how big this is. But overall, it went very well. At graduation, this won a Merit Award, which was one of 8, I believe. Very, very proud of this, and very, very surprised that it was selected for that. So very grateful.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's amazing. All right. So another question, how did the people that were watching it or your fellow students responded to it? And how big is your class? I would love to know that.
So the graduating class, I think, was around 70 total, including 2 different master's programs. But it was perceived very, very well. So just to show some images, this was the installation that I had done. So how the thesis works at this school is that the whole school is taken up with installations of people's projects and the representations of it, usually including renderings, models, animations on TVs or large projectors. What I decided to do was make this very interactive, where the sounds in the video you can hear with the headset, and then you can also play the game live on the left with these seats that I had bought and placed.
Wow, this looks really impressive. Has anyone else did the interactive stuff, or most people, like you said, just did models and blueprints?
Yeah, I think there were only a handful of interactive things, but it was fascinating because I didn't expect so many people to enjoy this.
Yeah.
You know, as someone, as a game designer, a world designer, level designer, you aspire for people to play these things and to spend time with it. And because this was interactive at a mostly non-interactive gallery, people loved it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And for anyone who doesn't know you, obviously, I just want to insert the fact that when we worked together, you were interfacing with a lot of celebrities as well. We did worlds for Paris Hilton, Jonas Brothers, and you were a mastermind of designing and blueprinting the virtual worlds for these celebrities. So did I throw in some other names if you remember, but that was really impressive.
Yeah, the ones I'm most proud of are Youngblood and Jonas Brothers. Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
But yeah, it was really weird. It was a great experience. I absolutely loved it. Going from that to this felt very different.
Yeah, you got some cool experience in your bag, right? Just taking a little. You had to take a little break from school, so just so everyone knows. But then I think it was a time well spent, and we met too. That was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. The character was a huge hit. That was a lot of people's favorite part of it, which was fun.
And the character's just designed so well. I mean, the cloak
must have been a genius.
Yeah,
to make that.
I don't even know how somebody pulled that off. That's amazing. No, but the cool thing is you gave me the refs, and as a character artist, the hardest thing usually is to get really good references from all the perspectives. You even gave me colors, so you know it wasn't that difficult to build because you gave me amazing images.
It's a team effort.
Team effort, absolutely. Well, Trey, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I've been wanting to see this since you started, so I really appreciate you taking the time. And if anyone wanted to reach out with a question or maybe see what else you're going to get into in the future, how can someone follow you? Is there a place?
Yes, so Instagram's probably the best place, which is treymarshall.xyz. And then website is in progress.
Amazing. All right. I'm sure I'll have you on many more times because you're doing some cool stuff. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing together seems to be synchronistic. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. And I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.